Okay, gang. There's another video coming at you. This one, a little bit different. What I want to ask you to do, if you can, is just keep an open mind about what I'm gonna be going through on this video. It's something that I know thoughts are gonna go through your head of, oh, come on, that'll never happen here, or, oh, you're overreacting to this. If those thoughts come into your head, okay, just put them on hold. Put them on hold and just listen. Just listen to what is being said. Okay, now I'm going to move my head around so this way I could show you all the screens. I have a bunch of websites here and stuff. So, um, first thing I'm going to do is move me around. Okay, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. So watch. But this is what I want to show you. Okay. This is from the Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention and Human Security. Now, the people at this institute, I mean, these people are professionals. These people are the ones that have studied genocide. What happens with genocide? I mean, over decades, all different, not just here, anywhere in the world, what causes genocide? What are the things that happen that lead up to genocide? All of so these are scholars. These are people that this is what they have studied their entire lives. So, I mean, if we're talking about subject matter experts, we're looking at them right here. So, the Lemkin Institute. So, this came out 3 days ago. Experts warn U.S. that the United States, again, this is where it's going to hit into your head. Oh, can't happen here. Is in the early stages of genocide against trans Americans. So, I mean, these are experts, including two former presidents of the International Association of Genocide Scholars. Scholars, people that have studied genocides, not just here, but all over the world, in all the other countries on this face of this planet where genocide has happened and throughout history. Okay, that warn that the nation may already be in the early stages of committing genocide. And actually, Dr. Henry Thorold, who served as the president, is concerned about genocide against trans people in the United States in the near future. And under international law, now keep in mind that since this administration came into being, that this is the first time in the history of this country that the United States has been put on the human rights violations list. The International Human Rights Violations List. First time in our 250-year history with this administration. So under international law, genocide refers to acts aimed at destroying, in whole or in part, religious, national, ethnic, or racial groups, but experts, important context they spoke with argued that these legal characteristics may be too narrow or too narrowly interpreted, and that the increasing attacks are aimed at groups that are socially defined, rather than those explicitly covered by UN conventions. So, but keep on going. Gregory Stanton, who is a former president of the IAGC, which is the International Association of Genocide Scholars, said that attacks on transgender and non-binary people in the U.S. represent a genocidal attempt to destroy a gender group. Now, again, we could sit here and say all you want that, well, it'll never happen here. I mean, my God, come on. It'll never happen here. Well, look at our history. Okay, look at our history. It's from The Guardian. how white Americans used lynching to terrorize and control black people. Yes, when was this? Well, granted, this was God. I mean, come on, this is the lynching of a black man in 1882. Well, that'll never happen. I mean, that was 1882. So they became widely practiced in the U.S. South from 1877 to end of post-Civil War through 1950. 1950 lynchings happened. And why? What would happen? Victims would be seized and subject to every imaginable manner of physical torment, with the torture usually ending with being hung from a tree and set on fire or even dismembered by mob by mob members. Well, that was 1800s, 1900s. I was in the South. That again, that can't happen here. Okay, during World War II, Japanese Americans were incarcerated during World War II. Okay, and what happened? From the attack on Pearl Harbor, launched a rash of fear about national security, especially on the West Coast. So 2 months later, February 1942, the Commander-in-Chief, President Roosevelt, issued Executive Order 9066 that resulted in the incarceration of Japanese Americans. Now, think about this. Listen to this. The order authorized the Secretary of War. I thought we had a Secretary of Defense. Oh, wait. The Department of Defense, the DOD, is now a DOW, Department of War. And the person who's who's SecDef, Secretary of Defense, is now SecWar, Secretary of War. And military commanders to evacuate all persons deemed a threat from the West Coast to incarceration camps that the government called relocation centers. Okay, so transgender people, I mean, what? Come on, transgender people aren't a threat. Okay, so this happened in, after World War II. Uh, Transgender people really aren't a threat. Well, I mean, come on. This is Wired. This is from Wired website about the Heritage Foundation. They're using made-up stats to push transgender terrorism classification. So this was in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing. Republican policy went immediately to work. The Heritage Foundation published Project 2025, which of course, at the beginning, the head of our administration said, I know nothing about Project 2025, okay? And it spun off the Oversight Project, issued a call for the FBI to designate transgender ideology-inspired violent extremism as domestic terrorism threat category. The push comes as President Trump just signed an executive order that seeks to mobilize federal law enforcement against vaguely defined domestic terror networks. Vaguely. What does that mean? Anybody that has any law background, what does that mean? That against vaguely defined domestic terrorist? And then we take it a step further. What did the FBI do? The FBI characterizes trans people as nihilistic, violent extremists. The FBI is reportedly preparing to categorize transgender people as violent extremists, a categorization supported by organizations affiliated with Project 2025. So this was September 18th, as reported by an independent journalist and two national security officials, said that the Bureau is discussing treating trans subjects as a subset of its new threat category, nihilistic violent extremists, which was created earlier this year. So now, for all of you that know me personally, I am a nihilist violent extremist, which means it defines us as someone who does criminal conduct in furtherance of political, social, or religious goals that derive primarily from hatred of society at large and desire to bring about its collapse by sowing indiscriminate chaos. That's from the FBI. So the FBI created a new terrorist threat category for transgender people. Yeah, and again, people say, well, that can't happen here. Oh yeah, that can't happen here. Are you kidding me? That can't happen here. That won't happen here. I mean, this is the United States. Everybody has rights. Everybody has freedoms. Really? Okay, well, just this year alone, there were over 1,020 anti-LGBT and transgender pieces of legislation across the country, and from about 22 different states. Okay, because now I want you to think about that. And I also want you, I'm going to move me around again, do the little floating head thing, because I want to show you something else here. Okay, these are the 10 steps to genocide. Where do we fall on this? Okay, now these again, these 10 steps, these are known, by people that study genocide. They've studied them and broken down into what steps are taken to get to that point of genocide. What actually happens there? Well, let's take a look at it. Step 1, polarization. Insecurity promotes a dominant group to amplify its identity, Red Hat Brigade, and form a narrative about an out group, viewing them as outsiders. Those drag people, you know, all those drag performers and transgender people, they want to just indoctrinate our children. So stereotyping, step 2. So step 1, check. Step 2, stereotyping. Perpetrators use stereotypes, relying on biased characteristics, physical appearance, genetics, race, etc., to negatively portray the out group. So, stereotyping. Men in dresses. We don't want men in dresses. Look at what you're doing to our children. If my child sees a man in a dress, my child's going to want to become one, and I don't want. Step 2, check. Step 3, scapegoating. Once negative traits are established, okay, we don't want men in women's sports. We don't want men in dresses in women-only spaces and women's bathrooms because, men in dresses are going to rape our daughters. So once negative traits are established, which they are, blaming the outgroup becomes easier. Reinforcing an us versus them narrative. Step 3, check. Step 4, discrimination and demonization. The targeted group may face exclusion through illegal statutes, enabling discriminatory laws, segregation, and denial of basic rights and resources. What did I just say? How many pieces of legislation just this year alone? 1,020. Since from 2021 to 2024. So 2021, 22, 23, 24. So in 4 years, there was a total of 1,600 pieces of legislation. In 1 year, there was 1,020 pieces of legislation. So on average, 400 per year for the other one, 1,000 this year. So discriminatory laws, and some of those are even erasure laws. What are erasure laws? Well, if I'm working, let's say, in that company, it's an erasing of my rights. So let's say I'm working in that state that has an erasure law, and somebody harasses me. not just verbally, even physically harasses, sexual harassment, discrimination, with the racial laws in effect, sorry, I have no right to press charges. Okay, a denial of basic rights and resources. Step 4, check. Step 5, dehumanization. This stage employs propaganda and hate speech to dehumanize the targeted group, portraying them as subhuman or dangerous. Dangerous. Again, we don't want men in dresses raping our daughters and going into their bathrooms or going into their locker rooms because they are just sexual perverts and deviant. Step 5, check. Step 6, loss of active bystanders, because, like I said at the very beginning of this, what's going to go through your head? Oh, that'll never happen here. That can't happen here. We are America, land of the free. That'll never happen here. Okay, loss of active bystanders. Over time, public leaders abandon defending the rights of the outgroup, allowing further dehumanization, marginalization, and rights erosion. Step 6, check. Step 7, repression. Liberty, limits, and repression emerge with tolerated violence, graffiti, public incitement, name calling, and frequent raids on offices based on discriminating laws. Okay, how about anti-DEI policies, executive orders about that, where lawyers, law firms cannot have DEI hires or, any kind of an illegal DEI initiative, which again, there's been no definition of what is illegal, just like before, of the executive order of a vague definition of a domestic terrorist. Okay, so that's in place here. So step 7, repression, bing. Step 8, persecution. Repression and violence becomes systemic, with more frequent arrests and detention of group members for perceived violations of discriminatory laws. Well, we know that there have been people that have been arrested, and we know not just transgender, but also people of color and different nationalities that are just being persecuted, being arrested. So we are in step 8. We are in step 8 of a 10-step process. We have already cleared 7 other steps, and we're in step 8. Because the next, step 9, comes planned violence is widespread against the outgroup, including famines, denial of humanitarian aid, scorched earth policies causing mass displacement, and organized violence. What happened to American Japanese when they were put into internment camps? I'm sure. What happened in the South? KKK burning, lynching, all of that. We're almost there. We're almost there, people. This is something that, again, we have to work on. Everybody needs to work on this. Okay? And again, you can sit here all you want and you could say, this will never happen here. This is America. It'll never happen here. It's happening. Wake up. Look at the news. See what's going on in the world, in this country. I mean, come on, for Canada to tell the American LGBT community, we will we will push through your asylum claims. If you want to come here, we will actually give you a year's salary to come up here and help you with housing and help you with, if you want to get out of there. I mean, understand what's going on. And, so now, hopefully, for those of you that have kept an open mind, because remember what I say, the mind is like a parachute. If it's not open, it's going to happen. So for those of you that kept an open mind, said, what can I do? What can I do? Well, I've already said it in a bunch of things. There's local, LGBT networks and, organizations. Donate your time to these organizations. How can you volunteer? Um, but the best thing that you can do, honestly, is speak up. Use your voice. Okay, we all know that one person, that one whoever in the group, that's always the loudmouth, that's always the bigot that you just always go, and you walk away. Now is the time for you to say, you know what? You got to be quiet. You got to stop this because I know someone who's transgender and that's not how it is. I know that there's a biological aspect to it. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Why not? Why didn't you know that? Huh? So stop it. Teach, learn, educate. Even send them to my channel so this way they can see some of these things. Okay? And see some of the biology behind it, the difference between sex and gender, everything. Everything. You need to step up and be an advocate for me. For me, if you know me, for me. If even if you say, you know what, I don't know exactly what to say. This person said blah blah blah, but you know what? I'm gonna meet him for coffee. Could you come and meet us for coffee? I, absolutely fine. I'll do that because the best way to get past all of this and to hopefully that we don't get past step 8 and go into step 9 and step 10 is to understand, to push back on the rhetoric, because nothing that is being said, that is being pushed out on the media is right. Nothing is correct. Okay? And also vote. Vote the midterms. Yes, people will say, you know what? I've voted Republican, I voted Democrat all my life. Why should I change now? Or, well, I registered as such and such when I was 18 years old. I just never changed it, so I always just vote that way. Grow up. Grow up. Okay? Now, if you're going to talk about this or if you're going to do it in your own social media posts, hashtag vote the person, not the party. Because that's all that we hear from the government is for the good of the party, for the good of the party. Yeah, well, when was the last time that you heard for the good of the party? 1930s Germany, for the good of the party. No, vote the person, not the party. Reach out to your legislators. If they're not doing the right thing, if you sit there and go like, oh my God, what is this person talking about? Guess what? This is a government for the people, by the people. When they go out campaigning, that's their job interview. That's why they're called candidates in a job interview. The campaign trail is their job interview. So when we do click that check on the ballot or fill in that little circle or whatever you do to vote, you're giving that person their job, which by definition means that you are the employer and they are the employee. Now, if they made promises during their job interview that they did not keep, or that they went back on and did a 180 and flipped around, what would happen to you in your job if you did that? You'd be fired, right? Well, grow up and say to these people, you're not doing the right thing. So you know what? You better straighten up and fly right, otherwise you're fired. Get your resume ready because the next elections, you're out. You're fired. So you better do the right thing. Be a human being. and vote. And I know that when people vote, they always vote for what's best for them. Okay, absolutely, I get it. Vote for what's good for you and balance that out for what's good for your neighbor as well. This is called being a human being. Okay? So don't just blindly say, well, I've always voted this way, so I'm going to keep on voting that way. And then when that person gets in and does something stupid, you say, oh, well, what can we do about it? You know what you could do about it. You are the employer. Have that mindset. Get that in your head. I'm your boss. You say to your legislator, I am your boss. You represent me. You do what I say. Because up until now, your performance evaluation has not been a good one. That's what you can do. We're heading into step 8. A lot of us, me personally, a lot of us are having our lives threatened. I want you to take some time after this video and just stop your brain and think. How would my life be if every time I walked out of my house, I'm always looking over my shoulder? Because there very easily could be someone who's going to jump out of the bushes and bash my head with a baseball bat. Think about that. Because that's that, and I know a lot of women, you always, women have that, from men, about the toxic masculinity and everything like that. Well, now trans women are women. We see that. We feel that. The problem is, though, it's not just from men, it's from women too. Women hate us. It's the whole mentality of the threat that we are. I'm in the bathroom. I just want to go to the friggin' bathroom. You know, that's all that there is to it. I'm not a guy in a dress who wants to go and rape somebody in the bathroom. Because Lord knows it's already been done by men. If a man wants to go in and rape a woman in a bathroom, he's just going to walk in. Okay? So don't fall for the crap. Because that's all that it is, just crap. Learn. Understand. Ask questions sincerely. You know me. Ask questions. What is it that you want to know? Put it into the comments. Say, hey, what about this? Can you talk a little bit about this? Or could you talk a little bit about this? I want to just know more about it. Ask me. All you got to do is ask, because we all deserve to live a glorious life. We all deserve that. Every human being deserves that. You need to do this. This is a call to action right now. That's all that it is. It's a call to action right now. Because again, 10 steps to genocide. We've already checked off 7 of them. We're getting into number 8. Save a life today. Be a hero. Take control of the world around you. Don't just let it flop all over you. And you sit there and go, oh, well. Take control. Get out, vote, do the right thing. Your legislators aren't doing the right thing. Confront them and say, you are not being a human being. And if you don't do the right thing, you've just lost your job in the next election. Don't bother interviewing for this position because you've just lost. I am your boss. Have that mentality. Understand the power that you have to do this. So we have to, like I said, live life gloriously, because up until the last minute, the future is what we make it. So take control of that and make a good future. Good future, because pretty soon I'm probably going to have agents knocking at my front door, you know, because we already know that Doge has already tapped into medical records and all of that stuff, and all of these illegalities, and we know that Palantir is doing stuff with AI to combine that. So if you don't hear from me in a long time, that's probably what's going on. Either that or somebody just, decided to pop out from in between some cars and run me over or something like that. But please just do the right thing. That's it. Thanks.